welcome to our second episode in G4 SDS Special. For today's episode, we will ask some student from CAS Department in BS Psychology about history of psychology. Your host, AG from the East, G4 SDS Special. Psychology is relatively young science in its experimental roots in the 19th century, compared, for example, to human physiology with the dates much earlier. As mentioned, anyone interested in exploring issues related to the mind generally did so in a philosophical context prior to the 19th century. 1774 AD, Franz Mesmer detailed his cure for some mental illness, originally called mesmerism, with a new known as hypnosis. In 19th century, psychology established as an empirical accepted science, while measure would change the model of research and evaluation would begin to take shape within this 100 years time span. What happened in 1878?
In 1878, G. Stanley Hall received the first American PhD in psychology. He later founded the American Psychological Association. And the next is 1879, Wilhelm Wundt founded the first formal laboratory of psychology at the University of Leipzig, marking the formal beginning of the study of human emotion, behavior, and cognitions. In 1883, the first laboratory of psychology in America is established at Johns Hopkins University. The next is 1890, the term of mental test was coined by James Cattell, beginning the specialization in psychology, now is known as psychological assessment. The next is 1886, Sigmund Freud began performing therapy in Vienna, marking the beginning of personality theory.
What happened in 19th century? In 1890, William James published Principles of Psychology that later became the foundation of functionalism. In 1892, foundation of the American Psychological Association, or the APA, headed by G. Stanley Hall, with an initial membership of 43. And in 1895, Alfred Binet founded the first laboratory of psychodiagnosis. 1896, writings by John Dewey began the school of thought known as functionalism. In 1896, the first psychological clinic was developed at the University of Pennsylvania, marking the birth of clinical psychology.
In 1952, chlorpromazine or thorazine, first used in the treatment of schizophrenia. In 1953, B.F. Skinner outlined behavioral psychology via research in the literature. In 1953, Code of Ethics for Psychologists was developed by the American Psychological Association. In 1954, Abraham Maslow helped to found humanistic psychology and later developed his famous hierarchy of needs.
In 1957, Leon Meisinger proposed his theory of cognitive dissonance and later became an influential figure in social psychology. And then in 1958, Harry Haslow publishes The Nature of Love, which describes the importance of attachment and love in rhesus monkeys. In 1961, Albert Bandura conducts his now famous double dot experiment in which child behavior is described as a construct of observation, imitation, and automation. While in 1961, Carl Rogers published On Becoming a Person, marking a powerful change in how treatment for mental health issues is conducted. In 1963, Alfred Bandura introduced the idea of observational learning on the development of personality. While in 1963, Lawrence Kohlberg introduced his ideas for the sequencing of morality development. In 1968, DSM-II was published by the American Psychiatric Association.
In 1968, the first Doctor of Psychology professional degree program in clinical psychology was established in the Department of Psychology at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Next is in 1969, Joseph Wolf published The Practice of Behavior Therapy. In 1973, APA endorsed the Psych degree for professional practice in psychology. Next is in 1980, DSM-III published the American Psychiatric
Association in 1983. Howard Gardner, professor at Harvard University, introduced his theory of multiple intelligence, arguing that intelligence is something to be used to improve lives, not to measure and quantify human beings.
In 1988, the American Psychological Society is established. In 1990, Noam Chomsky publishes On the Nature, Use, and Acquisition of Language. 1991, Steven Pinker publishes an article introducing these theories as to how children acquire language, which he later publishes in the book The Language Instinct. 1994, DSM-4 published the American Psychiatric Association. 1995, first psychologists prescribed medication through the U.S. military's psychopharmacology program. 1998, psychology advances to the technological age with the emergence to e-therapy. 1999, psychologist in Iran gained prescription. 2002, the push for mental health party gets the attention of the White House as President George W. Bush promotes legislation that would guarantee comprehension mental health coverage.
21st century, with the advent of genetic science, psychologists began grappling with the ways in which physiology and genetics contribute to the person's psychological being in 21st century.
In 2010, Simon Levy publishes Gay, Straight, and the Reason Why, which argues that sexual orientation emerges from prenatal differentiation in the brain. In 2013, the DSM-5 is released among other charges. In 2014, John O'Keefe and May Brent Moser and Edward Moser shared the Nobel Prize for their discovery of cells that constitute a positioning system in the brain that is the key to memory and navigation.
Studying history of psychology is important because one may learn about the past human behavior that is relevant to the intellectual growth and development of an individual. Again, your host, Asia from the East, and see you to our next episode.